Well, we better get started on this, haven't we? So here's what we're going to do. This morning in the 9 o'clock service, we spoke about divorce and we spoke about dating.
Yeah.
So in this service, we want to talk to you about marriage and about single life. And this is a series on circles. Right. Are you with me here? Say we're with you. All right, and this is not a preach thing. We're sitting here. This is our little table setting here.
I know,
and we want to talk to you this morning about this subject. So let me read to you. Well, maybe let me just start by saying this. For those who don't know, our story quickly is I got saved. I became a Christian when I was 17 years of age, and Sharon became a Christian when she was 15. Right. And we met, talk about circles, in a Bible study. I was encouraged to go to a Bible study, newfound faith in Christ. And they said, if you want to grow and build relationships, go to a Bible study. So I went to one where young people all attended, and that's where I met Sharon. You never know the circles if you're willing to put yourself out there. And, we dated for 3 years. And I want to say this, no sex until we got married. None whatsoever. I couldn't even put my arm around her in a car. It took her 9 months to let me hold her hand. I will say for good reason, because I literally came straight out of a very broken, very wild, very reckless, lifestyle. And so Sharon was taking her time to make sure I was serious for God before she ever would give herself to me in a relationship and allow her heart to go there, which in hindsight was wise. At the time, I didn't like it very much. And people say, well, that was a different day. No, we just made decisions of what we find, what we believe the Word of God teaches, and we brought our lifestyle and our emotions and our feelings and everything of our decision-making process in line with what we feel like is the wisdom of the Word of God. And so we got married when we were 20 because we were mature, weren't we, hun? We knew everything.
We thought we knew it all. Seriously, we did.
Yeah, we did.
And now we realize we don't know anything.
And not only did we not know anything, we didn't have anything.
I know.
But we had each other.
We had each other.
And at the time, we entered into ministry. I was ordained when I was 21 years of age as a youth pastor. And you want to talk about getting married and entering in the ministry? Right. That is pressure. I'm telling you, just trying to figure out. We were happily married, but we didn't know how to stay happily married because I came from such a wild background. My mother and father, both alcoholics, 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters, and I'm telling you, there was blood on the walls almost every week in our house. When Sharon used to come over to visit me in the early days, I used to say to my brothers, you will not come out of the room naked. You will have clothes on. And that was the house I grew up in. You with me here? And so Sharon came from the most well-to-do, put-together, moral, non-Christian family you'll ever meet in your life. And we meet, fall in love, get married, trying to figure out how do we do that. And we used to fight. I'm telling you, we still do, don't get me wrong. But back in those days, we fought hard, didn't we? We loved each other. We wanted to stay married. We just didn't know how we were going to do it. And so one time my sister came over to visit. Remember that?
She did, and she told us this story about 20 years later, how she was coming just to pop in and visit, and as she got closer to the house, she could hear us yelling at each other. And so she turned around and went and didn't visit. But she didn't tell us that until 20 years later.
How many are shocked to hear that Sharon would yell? How many just find that?
Yell.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah. She's got
angry.
you all conned, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And so, we had no children for 5 years, and that was because we were just newly married, just young, and we decided we better figure out how to do life well. And then after that, now we've been married 36 years this November, and we have 3 children, all serving Jesus, and 4 grandchildren, and we are absolutely loving life.
We are. And so, what's funny is I remember, Steve, when someone was saying to us, because again, we waited 5 years to have kids, and thank you, Jesus, that because I don't know if a baby in the middle of all that chaos, whew. So I'm grateful that we did wait. But I remember someone saying to us at that time, you know what, you'll never have this time again for a very long time. But I want you to know that very long time goes really quick.
Yeah.
And so now here we are
Yep.
at that place where we
On
were.
a ranch, but no Wi-Fi, no TV.
30 years ago with just Steve and I. And so there's so many seasons in your marriage even.
Yeah.
And adjustments that have to be made, and you're changing in the process. I mean, I am not, and Steve is not. We're not the same people that we said I do to, and yet every day we wake up and say I do, even in the journey of being married. Yeah.
I'm on my 5th wife.
Yeah.
She's not the girl I married.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say, honey, can you go back to that shy, quiet girl? I liked her a lot better when you didn't have as many opinions. Yeah, I know, I'm a jerk. I'm just telling you, I'm a jerk.
I'm going to punch him.
Yeah, she's learned how to be strong and stand up. And so I want to read you a verse in the Bible before I get myself into any more hole. How many think it would be good for me to preach the word, right? Yeah, okay. So Genesis 24, it said, this is the story of Abraham. I want you to hear this because we're talking about marriage. We're talking about single. I just want to say this, that God is actually into, for people who are single, God's into you and wants you to date, and he wants you to date well. He wants you to enjoy friendships and relationships, and ultimately that can, if you wanted to, lead to a really happy, fulfilled, blessed marriage. And somehow we think in the church, people in the world think in the church that the church is killjoy, that God doesn't want you to have any fun, and and I want to show you how much God involves himself in a relationship. We're talking about circles. It says, my master's wife Sarah, the master was Abraham, had borne him a son in her old age, and has given him everything he owns. My master made me swear an oath. You must not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites. So here's Abraham saying, I don't want you to find... Now, by the way, this is back in the day of arranged marriages. How many are glad we don't live in that day anymore? Dear God in heaven. I don't want my mother picking my wife. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And so Abraham turned to his servant and said, you got to find a wife for my son. And I want you to notice this here. It says, but I don't want you to get him from here. I want you to go to the land where I come from. Go back to my father's family, to my own clan, and get a wife for my son. Now watch this. Then I asked my master, what if the woman will not come back with me? And he replied, the Lord, before whom I have walked faithfully, will send his angel with you and make your journey a success, so that you can get a wife for my son, from my own clan, from my father's family. You'll be released from my oath when you go to my clan. And it says here, if when you go to my clan, they refuse to give her to you, then you'll be released from my oath. I want you to notice here that Abraham said, listen, and God will send an angel to help you find a wife for my son. Can I just say this? God wants you to find your partner. God wants to help you. God's not a killjoy. He's into this. He's into marriage. He's into dating. He's into relationships. God created us to know what this is. So I like that. It says, so when I came to the spring today, I said, Lord God, my father of Abraham, if you will, please grant me success on the journey which I've come. See, I'm standing beside the spring, and if a young woman, and I like the way he says, if a young woman comes out to draw out water, and I say to her, please let me have a drink of water from your jar. And if she says to me, drink, and I'll also draw water for your camels too, let her be the one that the Lord has chosen for my master's son. By the way, you need to know that actually what he was doing here in the context of this, it's one thing to give a man a drink of water. It's another thing to actually offer to water all the camels. Camels can drink. And what she was saying was it would take hours to get through this process. In other words, she's already showing this beautiful servant heart that actually is demonstrating without her realizing that someone's looking for a wife to prove just exactly what's in the girl. You with me here? All right. Thank you for that underwhelming response. And so, you know, he goes to her and he prays that that'll happen. And he turns to this beautiful young lady whose name is, I'm going to try and break into the story, Rebecca. And she says, let me water your camels as well. And then, long story cut short, it actually says the Lord directed them. And then actually she then said, I will go with you, talk to the mother, talk to the father. And actually the whole point is, watch this, God, some people say, well, how do I know what's about marriage? Who is the right person? Is he or is she the right person? Once in the nose, Abraham said, look, I don't want you to choose from here. He could have done. But he said, I want you to choose from over here. There is no Mr. Right in that sense. It's the only person that is your soulmate. You with me here? In other words, it's like love is a choice. Love is a choice that you make, and that person becomes right because you chose them. But if you choose them with the wisdom of the Word of God says, I want to tell you, life will be a whole lot easier than trying to make your own choices, then God asks you to fix up the mess. Would you agree? So that's the scripture I wanted to read because I think it's really important to know that God is into this. God's not a buzzkill. He's not a killjoy. He wants you to enjoy a happy, fulfilled life, and he involves himself in it. Sound good?
100%. So good.
All right. So let's go. Marriage. Let's talk about these are
about
questions
marriage.
we put out on social media, and then you've responded with these questions. So we're going to get into it. What is your biggest advice for an engaged couple? Darling, what is your biggest advice?
I would say enjoy being engaged. Make it as short as you possibly can.
Amen to that.
But dream together, save, and the engagement is talking about all things about your future. I also would say, you know what? To be honest with you, I feel like young couples, there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And a lot of that pressure comes from our social media. And so sometimes we can get so caught up in, now we all want a great dress and we all want it to look beautiful, but we can get so caught up in that we can forget the very meaning of what is actually going on. And I remember a couple of years ago, Steve did a wedding for a couple, and you know what? They didn't have a lot of money, but what they had, it was just a beautiful wedding. But there wasn't a lot of decor. She had a gorgeous dress, and in some ways, it probably wasn't the most Instagrammed wedding, whatever. But I remember Steve said, come up and pray. And as I stood there and just put my hand on them, I felt the Spirit of God right there, God's presence. And I just thought, you know what? I'm taking that over any Instagram picture any day. Is that you want, God, I want you in this. And so I just want to say to couples, if you're pressure off, do it beautiful. I'm not saying don't do it beautiful, but don't feel the pressure of having the picture, honestly, don't do that. Just go, God, the most important thing is that you're at the center of this.
Absolutely. I think that, and by the way, talking about a couple who's engaged, we talked a lot about dating in the earlier service, and we're going to show you that message in 2 Sundays. So I want you to see that, because actually a lot of what this is for an engaged couple who've already made that decision, but some of the non-negotiables and some of the things that you want to live by and the wisdom about who that person is and what that looks like, you're going to enjoy that in 2 weeks' time from now. But I would just say this, at least in the season of dating, date for at least what we call 4 seasons. And 4 seasons is basically a year. So you get to know the real person, not just the person they're wanting you to see. But where there's a summer, there's a winter, there's been a sunny day, there's been a colder season, and see how they handle life's experiences. Watch how they treat their parents. Watch, get to know the real person, not just the person you date with the romance. But, that's what's important to us. Yeah. So we actually dated 3 years, and we had a 6-month engagement. And to be honest with you, for me, it felt like 6 months too long. Yeah. But that was what was necessary for all the wedding plans and everything. So that's good advice. All right, next one. All right, how long should you be engaged? I just answered it, didn't I? Yeah. Praise the Lord. I just think date long enough, 4 seasons, and then and get. I don't want to say to people, oh, you're getting married, you're engaged. When are you going to get married? Oh, we got no idea. We haven't set a date. I just encourage people. The Bible says, Paul says this. It says, it's better to marry than it is to burn. And, in other words, once you decide you're going to get married, get married. Because I got to tell you, when you're married, the sex is good.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. Here's a question someone asked, and I really don't understand the context of the question, but I'm going to put it out there, and we're going to talk about it. Here's the question someone on social media asked. What do you do when church is dividing your marriage? Darling, what do you do?
Well, yes, I don't know the context to the question. I'm making an assumption that maybe the spouse is not a believer. That's my assumption. I could be completely wrong. And I just love this verse in Pt.2 where it says, wives, in the same way, be submissive to your husbands. What's the scripture talking about? Honor them, respect them, treat them the way Jesus treated others. I think that's just a great way to see. Often we look at that S word and we're like, But honestly, I just think the context is treat them the way Jesus treated others.
Now, when you said that S word, every man in this building thought
Submissive,
sex.
the submission
But
word.
you're referring to
word.
submission.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
thought I'd say
okay,
that.
just so we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Good. To your husband, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words, but by the behavior of their wives when they see the purity and reverence of your lives. I love that. I actually think, we carry a lot of responsibility in our lives as we do life, honestly. Our interactions with people, our friends, and then our spouses. And sometimes we find ourselves in a marriage that is not great. I think God puts a responsibility on us as believers to do everything we can to make this work. Now, I'm not saying, and Steve would say the same, don't stay in an abusive relationship. We're not talking about that.
No.
But if your husband is just not a Christian or your wife is not a Christian and they're telling you not to go to church, okay, so let's take it to there. Again, I would say to you, okay, are you part of a community group? Do you have a great group of Christian friends? If you, and just honor him and love him. I'm telling you, treat him like a king. He may not deserve it, but at the end of the day, we are saved by grace and we enter into a life none of us deserve. And so can you, as a husband or a wife, take it up and really love this spouse like nothing else? And you may say, well, I've already done that. I don't know your situation. But I'm saying that there's something about when I'm talking about a woman to a man. When a man feels respected and honored and loved in his home, it changes him. Yeah. You see a side to him, a softness. Again, I'd be with my girlfriends praying or guy friends praying, and I would just trust God in the process. And I would guarantee you that church becomes a part of your world.
Yeah. And I don't believe for a minute that a church should ever divide a marriage.
No, not ever.
And we would never, ever encourage that. When someone's actually having problems between a husband and wife, maybe about somebody's involvement in church and their business in the church, we will do everything we can to let them actually to help them find wisdom and get counsel on how to make that work. Because God does not, here's what people do. They go, God, then they go, what do? They do, family, number 2, and then they do church. And when you think like that, you kind of set the church and family up to become enemies of each other. Do you know what I mean? I just think, look, whatever you're into, be into it. So we're married, and we're happily married for 36 years, and I just had this attitude, so was Sharon. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, and we're going to give God our best, and I'm equally committed to a marriage being happy and fulfilled as I am anything I do in church. Are you hearing me? And I think so long as that's where you're coming from, I actually don't think marriages actually divide churches. Churches divide marriages. I actually think we have these wrong sense of structure in those things. And so I don't understand, but whoever that is, we'd love to reach out and help you because it's a really important question to get. There are answers for it. Next one. How do we improve communication between us? What would you say, Dale? Okay,
one thing that we did not do, and I would highly recommend, is to date your spouse every week. I wish that we had done that. Again, we're doing it now and making up time, and we did intermittently.
Why don't you tell them about our date at Wyoming when we FaceTime the kids?
Yeah, so we went to, we were staying, the nearest town to the Dude Ranch was 25 minutes away, and it had a population of 4,500 people. And so we just decided we felt like ice cream, so we went looking for an ice cream store. There was one ice cream store, but we were told later that the people work according to their own hours, so no one really knows when it's
they closed the store.
No one really knows when it's open. And so the only place we could find with ice cream was McDonald's. So we decided to go, which I haven't been into McDonald's for years. We were inside, sitting at McDonald's, eating a McFlurry and a chocolate sundae. And we FaceTime, actually Josh and Brooke, I think. And Brooke was like, oh my gosh, Josh, look at your parents. They're having a date at McDonald's.
They're so cute. Well, we weren't having a date at McDonald's. We were just having
wanted ice cream. So there you go.
But communication, how do you improve communication? Some people just say spend more time together. Sometimes more time together can reinforce the wrong patterns. Yep. You've got to learn how communication works. Yep. And you've got to learn how to let the other person talk and ask questions. One of the things Sharon and I have been good at is I say to her, honey, what can I do to actually be a better husband? What is it you need from me? Things like this. Never, and we've done this our whole married life. What do you need from me? Where am I actually falling short in my helping you? Is there anything that you want to talk? There is no don't go there zones in our marriage. Are you hearing me? Now, that doesn't mean it's all easy. It means there's some tension and there's some, communication that's needed, but we are willing to go there. And for Sharon, if Sharon's going to talk to me about something, I want to fix it. And Sharon sometimes doesn't want me to fix anything. She just wants me to shut up and listen.
Right.
And I'm still learning how to do that. Because if you tell me there's a problem, I will move heaven and hell to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that's just the way I'm wired, but I just kind of think, right, I'm on it. And Sharon goes, I don't want you to be on it. I just want to know that you understand.
Yeah.
Any guys know what I'm talking about here? All right.
I think too, sometimes couples can drift apart. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for 21st century marriages is that people just drift apart. They get so busy. Wife is working, dad is working, there's kids going here, there, and everywhere, and there's really no connection point. And so we can drift apart and feel like we don't even know this person anymore. Yeah. And that's why, that date night is so important. But also, I would say to you, get some questions. Write down some questions to ask. And maybe there's some hot potato things in your marriage. Well, don't start with the hot potato. Just start with, what's going on at work? Talk to me. Because very often, couples don't even eyeball each other. It's hi, how you doing? It's like we're just ships passing in the night. So I would just say formulate some questions just to get interested again in their world.
Well, and what happens is you end up living like bed and breakfast. Yeah. You live these two lives in a house, and sometimes even couples end up sleeping in different rooms. And I kind of think to myself, that's not healthy. In any sense of long-term thing. This one guy said to me, Steve, I'm leaving my wife. And I said, why? He goes, well, I said, what's happened in the marriage? He goes, well, don't get me wrong. She's never had an affair. She cooks and she cleans and she takes care of the kids and she keeps a clean home. And, she's actually really good and all that stuff. And I'm listening to this guy talk. And the more he's talking, I'm thinking, she cooks, she's clean, and I'm going, and he's going, it's just not happening in the bedroom anymore like it used to. And I'm going, yeah, no wonder. You've turned your wife into your mother. And the thought of making love to your mother is not all that attractive.
Right. Yeah.
You got to be willing to go out there. So date nights, I agree. That's actually something we've gotten much better at.
Much better.
Not great, but much better at, because we weren't doing it at all, were we? But it's been awesome. Okay, here's a good question. I like this one. How do you navigate difficulties with in-laws? And how do I work through them?
It's a big question. We are in-laws. We have a son-in-law and 2 daughter-in-laws.
Oh, I never thought of that. We are in-laws.
As far as I'm concerned, and I mean this 100%, they are the best spouses my kids could have picked. They are phenomenal, and I love them dearly. I would hate to think that they had an issue with us, and if they did, I would hope that they would talk to us about it. Because you know what? We raised these 3 kids. I'm so proud of them. But we think we got it down. You raise these kids, you've been involved in their life, and then they get married, and they're making decisions, and you kind of almost want to go, and that's not your job anymore. You're on the sideline cheering them on. And so this is what I would say, though. If you are a daughter-in-law with a difficult relationship with a mother-in-law, father-in-law, I would say that your spouse, your husband, needs to let him do the conversations with his parents.
Good.
Don't put you in the middle.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If there are issues with, controlling, none of us think we're controlling, but, when it comes to your kids, you're so joined at the hip at them that even when they're grown adults, you're like, man, this parenting of adult children, whoo, that's a whole nother world. So, and we would say, go get some counseling, talk to some pastors, some people in your world.
Dr. Henry McLeod's book on boundaries.
Yeah, 100%.
Read it, live by it. It is the best book ever on helping you navigate those relationships and draw boundaries. I want to say this to parents when you have kids who are married and you're the in-law. The only influence you have over your son or your daughter anymore, listen to this, is what they give you. Yeah. Are you hearing me? You don't say to them, I'll help put a deposit on the house if you buy a house near me. You with me here? You don't do that. That's actually manipulating. The only influence you have is actually what they give you. And, you know, Josh and Brooke right now are looking to sell a house and buy a house, and they got the house on the market. Well, thank God they're still interested in our opinion. They don't want us to tell them what to do, but they're interested. What do you think? You know, what do you think is a fair offer? And you know, I can't make their decisions for them, but if they're looking for wisdom, I'll share it, but I'm not actually going to give something with strings attached. And I think in a husband and a wife, the Bible says a man shall leave his father and a mother and be joined to his wife. There are some men that, frankly, how do I say this politely, need the kahunas to leave their mother and father and be joined to their wife, and you married her, and you need to actually cut the string and actually be attached to your wife and let the family know she's first in your life.
Right, yeah, totally.
All right. Last one, ready for this? Marriage, and we're going to do relationships. Yep. What are some of the biggest challenges married couples face?
Okay, so I've listed off a couple. I think unrealistic expectation. We go into a marriage, Prince Charming comes, or this amazing angelic princess comes, and our idea is that they're going to make me happy. And that is, you know, 6 months into it, they're like, I'm not happy because I married a flawed human, because we're all flawed human beings. You know, I remember one of my kids was dating, Sam was dating Laurie, and Laurie would say to me all the time, Sam is perfect. And fortunately, I've got Australian in me. And I'm like, honey, he does not walk on water. You just need to know he is, you know. Now, of course, they were just madly in love, and she's since figured out that he's still perfect in her eyes, so that's amazing. But the truth is, we feel like that person is supposed to make me happy, so if I'm not happy, it's them. There's something wrong with them. I think that's a big thing. Second thing I wrote down is that we stop working on ourselves. Biggest challenges we face is we get over familiar, we lose the wonder, we start blaming our spouse, and we forget that we have a big part, a big responsibility in our marriage relationship. Yeah. So how can I be better? What things do I need to work on? And then Steve talked about that a little bit, talking to each other and saying, hey, can you tell me? Or if something upset either of us, hey, I'm sorry. Yeah. Not I'm sorry, but it's, hey, I'm really sorry that I said that or that I did that. Couple of other things I put: comparison. I think today, especially with social media, as couples come into church or go do life, and they're looking at everybody else's marriage, everybody else's family, everybody else's kids, and they take, again, their eyes off what God has given to you and to me. And then lastly, I just said, get over familiar and lose the wonder of who you are. And I think for me this week, that was just so, like watching you embrace something very new. You know, like we're not young. I don't think we're old either, but, you know, like to get on a horse and do that, I was just saying to, you know, people were saying, how did Steve do it, the riding lesson? You know, and they were talking to us, and I'm like, look at how good he did. I was so proud of you, just being able to go, you know what, I'm going to try this. I don't care if I fall off. I mean, even just saying that is massive. Most people don't want to fall off anything, so.
You know, when you water ski, they tell you if you're not falling over, you're not learning, you're not getting any better.
I know, but that's water. The ground's a lot harder. You hit the ground from a horse.
So now I'm beginning to think I was an idiot. So here's the bottom line. I want to give you a scripture, and Rachel, I want you to come up while I'm giving this scripture. Rachel Braggsby, we want to talk about relationships. Just hold off, music team, just for a minute. Proverbs 5. This is an important scripture. And you know, social media is a big issue today, isn't it? And we look at we look at our marriage, and we look at other people's marriages through social media, through Facebook, and what that looks like and everything else. And I actually think sometimes the Bible says they that compare themselves among themselves are not wise. And you can get this wrong perception of what a happy marriage looks like and think that, and what we do is, this is a scripture, Proverbs 5. It says, this is in the context of, by the way, enjoying your wife and not looking beyond your wife for sexual fulfillment. But I actually think it's a good scripture for marriage. It says, drink water from your own cistern. What it's talking about is enjoy the wife of your youth. And it says, drink water from your own cistern, running water from your own well. Should your springs overflow into the streets, your streams of water into public squares. That to me is a social media comment. In other words, don't put everything of your life out there on social media. There ought to be some sort of sense of intimacy. But even sometimes, I think the way in which people post on social media, they're putting their springs out on the streets. You with me here? They're giving you the best shot of what is, but it's not reality.
Right.
Like when I wake up next to Sharon in the morning, just the other day, we had Jax, our grandson, in the bed with us, and he calls me Skipper, and I get, "Morning, Jax." He goes, "Oh, Skipper, your breath stinks." I said, "Yeah, well, you peed the bed, you little..." Anyway, listen to what it says. "Let them be yours alone, never to be shared with strangers." And I actually think there's something powerful about actually keeping the conversations. You should not be having conversations with other people that you're not having with your wife or your husband.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And don't get caught up in that social media world.
Posting bad things about your spouse or your
Yeah.
ex or
Yeah.
whatever. Just don't do that. Speak well of them. Obviously if you're married, but also if you're divorced. You know what I mean? Like your kids love that mum or dad.
That's
and
very
so
good.
Speaking well and not putting stuff on social media, I think is so important.
Yeah.
And being smart with who you talk to. I don't like getting together with a group of girls, and it hasn't happened for a very, very long time. And they're just speaking so ill of their husband. I just can't. I'm like, please stop. Do something good about it. Get busy working on it. Stop. It's one thing to get help and to say, hey, this is what's going on. It's another thing just to be constantly railing on them. So
that's well said. I think that's worth applauding right there. Come on.
Rachel
Brown.
Rachie.
Rachel, if you don't know, is like a sister to Sharon. She's a Aussie
Incredible.
girl from Queensland. And Rach, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but you are single and
Ready to mingle.
you're ready to mingle.
Yes. No, I love you, Rach. I just am so proud of you, the way you do life. Rach comes into a room, everybody immediately knows and loves her. She is an incredibly loyal friend, and I've watched her do single life for a number of years, and she's exceptional at it. She doesn't have a feel sorry for herself mentality at all. She is living life to the full, and so we just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, Rach. Really proud of you. First of all, what sorts of relationships can you cultivate in your life to keep from getting lonely?
Do you know, as they said, I've never been married, so I've been single all my life, and I am 51, so I'm not real old, but I'm not a spring chicken either. So I've walked through the seasons of having friends that have got married, friends that have had children, the whole, Lord, what's happening? This is not how I expected my life to turn out. I thought I was going to be married and have kids. But I think the greatest relationship that we can always develop is just fantastic friends. I've met lots of single people, and the greatest need that they have is actually that they are very lonely and they just need some great friends. And so a couple of points with that. When it comes to your friends, maybe you are sitting here this morning and you're thinking, I really don't have any, or I need more. Can I just encourage you to take stock of the friends that you do have currently, and how much are you really investing into them? Often we say, or we think we want friends, but we're not doing anything to invest in that. The Bible says, as you sow, you'll reap. So if you're sowing generosity with your time into people, you'll reap that. And so invest in the things that you love. Honestly, if you're sitting here today and you are not in a community group, you're an idiot. I mean that really, honestly, people that are single and are wanting to find friends, community group is the greatest place to find them. And, I'm a big believer that your future spouse is in the house of God. I just do. As you follow him, as you submit your life to him, even though it may not come in the timing you're expecting, it's going to come in the most perfect timing that God has for you. And so get yourself into a connect group or community group. We've got millions of them. So
there's actually a Bible verse of what Rachel said there. The Bible says, he who isolates himself, Proverbs 18 verse 1, it says, he who isolates himself rages against all wisdom. And the Bible's just saying, let me just say this, God is not all you need. He is not all you need. God said, it is not good for man to be alone. And God was there when he said it. We were born and created in the image and the likeness of God. We were born to be in relationships. We find fulfillment and happiness by being in a relationship. And that can start like a community group.
And I know that can be a scary thing. Honestly, I know it can be. Going into a new environment where you don't know people. But our community group leaders are trained to love you and to accept you and to welcome you. And so, again, can't encourage you enough. Also, if there's hobbies, or join a club, or enlarge the circle of your friendships, or the ability to make friends. Just enlarge that. It's not a difficult thing to do. And I just want to encourage you, people like you more than you think they like you.
Right. That's good.
They like you more than you think. And then another big thing is just think of others rather than just yourself. Sometimes when you get lonely, you become very like a navel gazer, very, oh, what about me, what about me? But I have found in my life, as I have served others, it is amazing how I have found fulfillment. And the Bible says that. The Bible says that he who refreshes others, he himself will be refreshed. And I have found that to be true time and time and time again. But I want to tell you, sometimes when it comes to serving others, it is inconvenient. It's inconvenient. It's like, I don't really want to do that. But as you step out and do it, like I have friends that have got kids, man, their kids are my kids. I've yet come across a family or a parents that say, oh, no, don't be spending time with my kids. They're like, yeah, can you come over and watch them? It's awesome. So I just think there is so much need that as a single person, we can meet in the lives of others just by serving them.
Yeah.
So,
for the record there too, go ahead.
What I love is, Rachel said, she saw her life looking like this, a certain way, and it's very different. There's not an ounce of bitterness in her, or she's not mad at God or anything like that. And I think that's been a real key, Rach. You've never once, looked up to heaven and go, what? You've just gone, I'm going to embrace the season I'm in and live fully.
The preacher in me thinks this, that, that is a fire to go through. If you wanted to get married and you haven't. Yeah. That's like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They went into the fire, but they refused to compromise into what the world wanted to do, which Rachel's done. She's refused to just get desperate, lonely, vulnerable, and try and meet some guy in some bar and hopefully, do you know what I mean? She's just hope for the best. And what's good about Rach that I love the most, and I honor you today. You actually babysat our kids, and now you're babysitting our grandkids. Yeah. But what I've watched Rachel do, she's come out of that fire. She's resolved where she's at in the season she's at. And I love it. It says, when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego come out of the fire, it says, the only thing that burned was the ropes that had them in bondage. It says they didn't even smell of smoke. Yeah. And there's no smell of smoke, no residue on Rach. And we just love you and appreciate you.
Thank you.
So,
just so awesome. And I guess, we've got two questions here, but let's make it into one. Staying content in your singleness, not being sad, and also engaging in a world where it seems like everyone else is married.
Yeah, that's the question. It seems like everyone else is married. I actually did a bit of research, and in Virginia Beach, this is not Hampton Roads, just Virginia Beach, only 53% of people are married. The rest have never been married, are either divorced or widowed. And so even though it may seem like everyone's married, so it's not the truth. It's really funny. Sometimes, as single people, we can feel or fall under the false assumption that we are not complete, or that we are missing out, or we are, there's something wrong with us. And there's even tales of that sometimes even in society. It's like, well, you're not married, you're single, like what's wrong? Right. And I want to read a scripture that has really, for me, been an anchor at times, because even though I'm really grateful that you said that about not smelling like smoke, but there have been days and there have been times where I have, as you lay your head on the pillow at night, where I have wept and gone, God, you know my heart, you know my desires, I'm trusting you, but this can be really hard sometimes. Yeah. And this scripture, it's found in the Message translation. It's 2 Corinthians 6, verses 12 to 13. And Paul's writing, and he says, dear Corinthians, but you can actually substitute that and put your name there, dear Rachel, or dear whatever your name is. I can't tell you how much I long for you to enter this wide open, spacious life, We didn't fence you in. The smallness you feel comes from within you.
Awesome.
Your lives aren't small, but you're living them in a small way. And I'm speaking as plainly as I can and with great affection. Open up your lives, live openly and expansively. And the truth is, as single people, we have so much to offer. We have less time constraints on us than people that are married with children. Often we have less heartache that is in our lives. And I just want to encourage you, if you're feeling like less than, or you're feeling like my life doesn't really count, that's actually speaking more about what's going on in you than really what's going on around you.
Awesome.
And if you trust God, trust Him. If you seek Him first, the Bible says He will, everything will be added to you if you seek Him first. And so just keep Him first, yeah.
Amen.
That's great
Amen.
wisdom. Come on, give it up for Sharon, for Rachel.